Hi, it's Terry Murphy, and it's Monday. And you know what? We've got Christina Wise with us, and you know about her. She's a mega producer. She's started million-dollar companies. She's been listed as 100 of the most influential people in real estate. She's been featured on NBC and ABC and all of the big mega stations on women in money, and the author of Falling for Money, one of my favorite books ever. She's here to share with us for Women's Wisdom Network on how we can become so financially wealthy and wealthy. And we've talked about her programs before. She's featured on our podcast series, Women's Wisdom Network, on Spotify and Apple and Libsyn and a whole bunch of others. Bottom line is you need to know Christina because she's going to be your BFF, even if you've never met her. Welcome, Christina.
Hey, it's so much fun to be back every week.
Every week, I love this Money Mondays, sort of like Meatloaf Mondays when you were a kid, but you knew it was going to be really, really good, only without the calories. And so we've been talking about business plans and how plan isn't really, it's more like let's declare lifestyle and power, if you ask me. So in our last series, we've been really developing the how-tos for a business plan, the elements of 5 pillars. You've been spectacular on that. One of the things that occurred to me is that we talk about, and you don't like the word budget, and I get that, but it's what does it cost to you for lifestyle? And one of the things I thought about was, how do we actually tactically calculate what it costs us to live a month? Because some of us have quarterly, and then sometimes it's annual, and some of us are entrepreneurs, but at the end of the day, we know that there's some number every month that we have to meet and or exceed just to live life. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And there's a couple of different ways to think about it. But one, it's not difficult to figure out, but it is something we want to figure it out. And in business, we call it a burn rate. So when I teach my business students, we're going in one of the numbers I want them to calculate and hold is what is your monthly burn? And it's a term that we use in business, especially back in the day of startups and technology, is that when we were looking to go get funding, part of what we needed to tell the investors was, hey, here's the monthly burn. And so if we need 12 months of funding and we're burning $10,000 a month, then I need $120,000 as, let's say, startup capital to get this off the ground in the next 12 months. So that's what we call it, the burn rate. It's the cash that you're burning. And it's a term that we want to know. What is your burn rate? And it doesn't have to be to the dollar, but it needs to be within a few $100s every month. So the first question we want to ask ourselves is, what is our monthly burn rate? And what that means is that this money is going out the door, whether or not we generate $1 worth of income.
That's pretty sobering. Because I don't know that we think about it. And then you have to add things that you think are part of your absolute, you've got to have life. So keep going, because this is very interesting.
Yeah. So in my program, we call it living versus luxury. And living expenses are what we call the burn rate, meaning they're required to live. And if you don't pay the bill, there's a consequence. And that's what we want to first establish is, what is that monthly burn? So if we don't make our mortgage payment, they take our house away. If we don't make our utility payment, they turn off the electricity. If we don't make our car payment, they take the car. If we don't get groceries, we don't eat. So it's looking at what are these costs that are non-negotiable, meaning I have to pay them. If not, there's a consequence. And that's the first number we really want to come up with. And so how do we calculate that? Well, looking at any one month on its own, it's not going to give us really the accurate information, because some months are lower spending and other months are higher spending.
Well, think about the upcoming months with the holidays. You're going to spend more on food. And by the way, food's gone up. So than you would maybe in July, right?
Exactly. So yeah, with Christmas presents or with food. So absolutely. Sometimes most of us pay insurance on a quarterly basis. So that hits only every 3 months. It doesn't hit every month. So what I recommend that my students do is take a look at 90 days. And so look at your spending over 90 days and really average it out. So take the total cost of all that spending, really divided by 3, and that can give an average. So really the starting place is to get your average monthly. And that's your monthly cost. That includes everything. So
Before you go on, I just want to say for those of you that are just joining us, this is Christina Wise. She is the author of the Wise Money Method. And she's been gracious enough to share generously some of the insights from that program so that we can become more financially successful, profitable, and efficient, living life by design, not by default. So I just wanted anybody that was just joining us to,
absolutely.
it's the Wise Money Method, which is, I tease her all the time about her last name wasn't Bachaglu because that wouldn't have kind of translated. But you were talking about things that occur quarterly, and then how do we average that in? I mean, do we just try to break it up into the monthly thing?
Yeah, so I mean, a starting place, and again, if people go to my program, we get more granular and we really account for all the money, but it's a starting place is look at the last 90 days and look at all the money you spent 90 days and divide it by 3. And that's going to give you your average monthly that should factor in a quarterly insurance payment, some just lower spending, some higher spending. So really, you just want to get your average. So take that average and let's just say, it's $10,000 a month and multiply it by 12. So that means your lifestyle costs roughly $120,000 a year. Just estimating this with some very simple numbers. So anyway, that's just some numbers we want to know is how much does it cost to live our life? Now we can, like I said, those are simple calculations, but what we want to do is we want to be able to pull a report that tells us exactly how much we spent. And that's where we usually fail, is because if I ask people how much money is enough, or I say, how much does it cost to live your life on an annual basis, or how much passive income do you need to be able to pay for the cost of your life? I get it, people look at me with a deer in their headlights. They have no idea how much it costs them. All they know is that they tend to be making enough money to cover the bills. That's about it.
So that's like, if I've got a couple of bucks in the bank, I'm good. And boy, I mean, don't you think that there's an element of I'm afraid to figure that out because I could be so far in the hole that I don't know? I mean, I really like sometimes as we coach people, you and I, we find out that it's the little things that kill you. It's not the, I just bought this coat for, $1,500. It's it was $40 here, $50 here, $40 here, $50 here. And all of a sudden, if you multiply that times 12, right, it kind of really adds up. So are you suggesting a software that, any businesswoman should be, or any business person for that matter?
Well, we do. Like there's the way just to generally start just doing some practice work to get us in the practice of just wanting to ask questions and know some numbers. And you said something very key that's many times we don't want to because we're afraid of the answer. This is a terrible example, but it's truth. And something that's kind of a horrific example to make a comparison. But my dad, who's since passed, he had this bump in his leg for a year and it was getting bigger and bigger. And I'd keep saying, Dad, why don't you get that checked? He's like, oh no, I just, I'm out in the garden and I twisted my calf or something. And then the next time I'd see him, and I would just keep asking and be like, oh no, it's just something. And my dad was afraid to get it checked. And so he finally went to the GP just to get his annual thing. And the GP said, hey, we need to get this checked. What is this in your leg? And he's like, I don't know. I probably twisted or something. And then come to find out it was cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad waited and he had 3 months to live. So the sad thing is using that as an example is that's the way it is with our finances. My dad knew something was wrong, but he was so terrified of getting the answer that he waited too long until we couldn't do anything. Now, who knows? We don't know, but I think he would have probably at least gotten a lot more time. If the first time we would have noticed that, we would have said, hey, what is that? And he wouldn't have been afraid to go get it checked. And it would have, maybe they still would have said cancer, but it would have been early stage cancer and not late stage cancer. And maybe we could have done something about it. So that's what we're doing with our finances, is that we're just ignoring it, thinking by ignoring it, it's going to go away, or we don't have to face it, or the news is just too hard. And I can promise you, the longer you wait with finances, just like with health, it turns into a crisis situation. And I have a lot of desperate people that come to me, and I'm kind of like the doctor in stage 4 cancer at that standpoint. Like, I can help, I can give you some tools and some things to help you out, but this is late stage. And so I just really encourage everyone to just get over it. We can deal with it no matter how hard the situation or whatever it is. that's what I do. We can reverse it. We can take care of it. We can get you back to a state of healthy.
You and I see this a lot in mortgages. I mean, people that get upside down on their mortgages. And as professionals, we know that there are remedies out there as opposed to strict foreclosure, which is painful and whatever.
Right.
Again, knowing far enough in advance really helps. So I really admire and appreciate your suggestion that just figure it out. And yeah, every year it could be different. I mean, 1 year if you move, you've got moving expenses. You won't have that again for a while, hopefully. Health expenses, sometimes it's a health thing in 1 year. So better to know what's going on than not. So that's a great example, painful as it was.
Yeah, and it just, it is a good example. So we're looking at this, again, these are just generalities we're getting to as a starting place. But what I teach in the class now is that's the total expenses are $10,000 a month, let's say. But now we want to know the burn rate. And the burn rate is the portion of the 10,000 that burns no matter what. So hopefully, we're making $10,000 a month if we're spending $10,000 a month, right? So that's the case now. But what we want to look at is out of the $10,000 a month, what has to be paid? What if I generate $0 of income this month? Like I said, that's the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries. And then what's the other amount that are negotiable, that are choices? These are choices every single month. And that's what we also want to look at, is saying, like, how much am I spending on just what I call typically unconscious spending? They're just to swipe the credit card. My daughter called me last week and we were laughing. She said, "Oh my God, I'm about ready to go into Target. I'm going in to buy one thing and I know I'm going to come out $250 later." We just all know how that is. Of the
Costco is the band.
Yeah, Costco's the worst, right? I was
Costco's
at
the
Costco
worst.
last night, $320 later, going in for just a couple things. But we want to be able to keep track of what is our spending and make spending conscious. Now, how do you do that? Like, is there software? So the thing is that, most of the tools out there are what I call just these simple budgeting tools. So maybe there's Mint, or there's YNAB, or there's, I'm trying to think, just these apps on your phone. And those can be a good starting place just to keep an eye on, again, on your spending. But you can't run any reports. You can't microscope in and really zoom in. What are you spending on? You can't categorize these things. So the software that I say, use software. So I'd rather use Mint or use one of those versus nothing. And you have to have software. You have to use the tools. Unless you're writing checks these days and your check register is the tool. Remember check registers?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Unfortunately, though, it really, the hard part is the onboarding for like a program like QuickBooks or Quicken. I'm going to suggest that if you're listening to this and you're so busy now and you don't have time to learn another darn thing on electronics, that you hire somebody who is. I found a great resource for that because yes, I could get in there and mess up QuickBooks all by myself, but as it advances, it gets more sophisticated and I don't. So hiring somebody for a couple $100 a month may be worth it in the long run because it will help you automatically generate reports, show you where you are, show you what's still not collected if you're that kind of business. Yeah, very good suggestion.
Yeah, no, and you can get it. You can make it fancy smancy. So, I use QuickBooks to manage all my payroll and to manage all my businesses. And I do lots of reports and I do lots of reconciliation. So yes, that's more sophisticated, but just the simple aspects of really being able to track and manage your money is not comprehensive and it's not difficult. Now it does, and to your point, you can hire somebody, but it's if you are a real estate agent, how important is your database?
Oh, no business without it. Absolutely.
So would you, if you agree that your database is crucial to your overall financial success, does crappy software, or having no software, just having it on 3x5 cards, or just having somebody else that completely does it and you're never in it? If your database is that important, wouldn't we want to be selective of the software that we use and at least learn kind of the basics that we can manage that on our own? Do we hire somebody to probably help us set it up and do the transfers and maybe get different reporting or different things set up? Absolutely. But if our database is key to our financial success, we want to be able to get into that database and be able to navigate it, to be able to use it, at least at a basic level. Things more, we can hire people for things that are maybe a little bit more sophisticated, like a marketing campaign or something. So that's what QuickBooks is for our finances, is that if you want to grow wealth, if you want to get off the hamster wheel, if you want to get out of financial strain and anxiety, if you want to get out of this place of like, oh my God, just another month and there's not enough money, the only way out of that is to get in charge of your money. And the only way to really get in charge of your money is it all has to be in one place and it has to be managed. You have to be able to see it. You have to be able to track every dollar, just like you want to track every name in your database. If you have 1,000 names in your database and all 1,000, and all 1,000 names can be future business, do you want 25 of the 1,000, or let's say 250 of the 1,000 just to go missing because you're not paying attention to them? How much money could that 250 people in that database equal up to, that if you're just missing them because you have bad data or you didn't get them in the database? So that's what we're doing with our finances. It's just, we're missing it. the money is missing. We're not paying attention. And so we're wondering why every single month we're not hitting our numbers.
You brought up something I'd like to punctuate just a second here, and that is, I've got a new client that told me that she was spending $1,500 a month on lead gen. And of course, you and I know where this is going. The next question is, and how's that working for you? Because very often you find that we're paying for things that we're not tracking a return on investment. So gym memberships, magazine subscriptions, automatic send kind of things that I don't know about you, but every once in a while you get all jammed up. You got 17 packages of Pellegrino. It's because it like kind of accumulated. So if nothing else, you said go back 90 days, check it out. What if you just checked it for 90 days? I mean, even then you still have some runway left to adjust. More than that, it brings an awareness to you of what you're spending and if you still want it. I mean, would you agree there are things you don't want anymore that you might be paying for? Or maybe long-term contracts?
Well, and things, they're so sneaky too, these subscriptions. Sometimes you sign, you buy a new computer, you get Apple TV free for 12 months. You're not looking at your bills, and now you're being charged $15.99 a month for Apple TV, but you don't even know you're being charged. And again, I've said this before, it is a rigged system out there. Everybody wants our money. Apple wants your money. Google wants your money. Whole Foods wants your money. Amazon wants your money. Neiman Marcus wants your money. Everybody wants your money. So the thing is, and it's either in your pocket or their pocket. And now this technology is so sophisticated. And now we're living in such a convenient culture. Like they're packaged like, oh, we're making this easy and convenient for you. No, they're making it really easy to take our money. An example of that is how easy is it to sign up for just monthly services? Like, just put this on subscription and every month we'll mail you your detergent and every month we'll mail you, your food supply. So now we're just so many subscriptions that they're like, we'll make it very convenient. You don't have to think to order. We'll do the ordering for you. So they pitch it to us. It's like, oh, that sounds really convenient. That's nice, without realizing how much it's costing us. In the tune of thousands of dollars many times, just these convenience charges. And then things like, again, you sign up for Hulu for a 30-day this, you sign up for an Apple for a 12-month that. And if we're not checking our finances, we don't know how much those things are adding up to. And again, a lot of the clients and students I work with, they can be spending $2,000 or $3,000 a month without even knowing that they're spending that much on stuff they had no clue that they were spending it.
How about the auto renews that just automatically kick in that we don't think about? I mean, somebody, what we were talking about, we had rented a movie and they said, oh, it's free, but then it'll kick in starting, even though it was a minute amount, even $10 times a million people is a lot of money. So I think you bring up a really good point. What's reoccurring that is either no longer of value or you can find a better deal? Um, I won't even go into credit cards and interest rates and all of that stuff because that's another whole session. But for the purposes of this budget, if you're listening to this, I think you should email us and talk to us about what you found that was outrageous that you didn't know you were paying for. I think that when you find that, it's tragic, but it can also be funny because you don't realize what you're doing. And like you said, when you're in control, I told you about the article that was in the New York Times, I think it was last week, about self-care. And it says something like, have a broken heart, buy real estate. Doing what you can to empower your life by design, not by default. And this also goes into when you have an assessment of, and we'll do this later because we're going to talk about profit and loss statements, which most of us can hardly spell that. But when you really look at what your assets are, what they're costing, in one case, I helped consult with a woman who had rental properties, and she was so far behind on paying attention that she was spending more to maintain them than she was than getting them. And it was not offset by acceleration. So there's many ways to look at where your money goes. But at the end of the day, as you say, if you're the only pump, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're not making what you called mailbox money, what's it costing you to wake up every day? Good point.
And I give that even as a definition of wealth. Like wealth can answer the question, how many days can you live without going to work to make income?
Yeah.
So if you can live from here on out without generating $1 of working income, then you're wealthy, because that means assets, or you have other passive streams of income that pay all your bills. And so that's what wealth is. And so, if you can live 30 days, you have 30 days of wealth, basically. If you could live 30 days without going back to work, so to speak, or a year, or whatever the case is. And financial freedom means that it is in perpetuity. That means that you actually don't have to work anymore, that all your bills are covered. And what's robbing us of growing that wealth is unconscious expenses, meaning money going out that we're unaware of because we're not paying attention. And if we want to grow wealth, we have to pay attention. And so in the program, we have a contest, and we call it's in the uncover section, when we're really uncovering our spending, we're uncovering where the money's going, we're uncovering the subscriptions, we're uncovering how much it costs to eat out, and people are really uncovering how much their unconscious spending is costing them. Like they're uncovering that for the first time. And we just call it holy shit moment after holy shit moment after holy shit moment. And people are reporting, we make it really fun. And I mean, like I said, and so we give a winner to, when you multiply that on an annual basis, who actually what we call found the most money. And sometimes it's over $100,000 of found money, meaning they had no idea, because the more money we make, the more money that's kind of being spent frivolously in a way. But even smaller ones, so even those that are earning lower incomes, like, man, it's $1,500 a month that we just canceled these things we didn't even know we're spending. So it's just, again, we want to uncover where our money is going. So again, it's either in our pocket or somebody else's. Another example, like what we're talking about, is, I review my books. I mean, I'm in my books all the time, but I noticed on my business books, in my Good Life Realty business books, that there are these $375 charges to American Home Shield. And I don't have any American Home Shield. And so I'm still working to get to the bottom of it and talk about just a nightmare to try to get. So in the grand scheme, it's $150.
Yeah, but $150 times, yeah.
Right, but in an account that generates, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's still $150 that American Home Shield charged me, that I don't have any contract with them. I don't know why they charged me, probably because I paid something for a customer or something and they had my credit card on file. But there's $150 that it's either my money or it's American Home Shield's money. And I'd rather have that $150 in my pocket and not theirs, because it's my money. They incorrectly charge me. But I wouldn't know that if I weren't in those books looking at that. It'd just be $150 gone there. So things like that show up all the time, even when you're in your books all the time.
Well, the other thing that we haven't really talked about is ladies, this is all about focus. What you focus on, right, is revealed, because the more you focus on it, the more information you get and the more you get verified. So let's just say you're looking at recurring costs you're talking about. Some of your banking costs, there might be a different institution that doesn't charge the same amount. Or if you've got investment accounts and what they're charging for commissions. I mean, we live in the moment, but this moment supplies the next moment's existence. And yes, we're always going to need food, shelter, and clothing. But if you realize that you are, like, what did you call it? Outspending your lifestyle, then it's going to come back. And at some point there, like you said, there's going to be a boiling point and it's going to come back. So
Well, another thing too, that this time of year, especially, I have my little rituals, but there's a couple things I do. So the things that I think we mentioned this last week, but the weekend after Thanksgiving, I always do my business planning for the next year. And that's the financial piece is a big piece of this, is to really look at how much money did I spend last year, in all these different categories and all the different buckets and all the different businesses, and how much income did I earn, and, what could I have done better? So there's the reflection and then setting that up. And we talked about that in the business planning. And another piece to that is every year at this time, I look at what I call renegotiating. So all my insurance, for example, and look at any type of thing that might be negotiable. And this year, from moving from Progressive Insurance to Encompass, which I haven't even heard of Encompass, saved me about $800 a month. So what's 800 times 12?
wow.
Just switching insurance companies.
Yeah.
And that's real money. So would Progressive be totally happy to keep those payments? Absolutely. Were they going to ever say, hey, we think we can get you better insurance by going out and being proactive and knowing, hey, insurance is negotiable.
Oh, no, that is such a good point. I want to bring that up as well, because I had got notified.
It's almost $10,000. That's $9,600 I saved by making one phone call.
Exactly. And for me, it was, she noticed, this is when you have a really good insurance agent that you want to refer to everyone you know. She said, this company went up $447. And I found one that is the same coverage for, $447 less. Okay, $400 times, 10 is what, 4,000 plus two more. So, you're looking at some money here. Again, would I ever check it because it was an investment property? No, she did. And so, of course, I want to appreciate her outwardly and whatever, because I would not have caught it. And I'm just going to tell you, if you're already too busy, or if you're already working so hard that you don't have time to do what Christine is telling you to do, this is the time to do it. Like you said, right after Thanksgiving, there's a little lull in there that Friday and that Friday and Saturday when people are kind of busy with their own personal lives. That's a good time to reflect on that. And I know that you give away some resources so that people can actually think about that, but you even have a money quiz, don't you?
Yeah, the money quiz is a great place to start. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So yeah, just take the money quiz. I call it the financial IQ. And it's a fun place. It's kind of like stepping on the scale, like, hey, how much do I really weigh?
Ooh.
And this is kind of like stepping on the scale financially. It's like, hey, let me just give myself a little quiz here. How am I doing? And whatever the score is great. It just means that, there might be some room for improvement.
Yeah, seriously, let's get brave, ladies. Let's take control of our lives and look at, even if you can't look at 3 months, at least look at the last 2. COVID had a lot of impact on a lot of people, which caused a lot of changes, but some of those changes were actually quite good. There's certainly things have gone up, so maybe there's an adjustment that could be made. We've got real estate values went up. So we need to look at, are we covered with insurance? Are we paying too much insurance? Is maintenance changed? Do we need all that maintenance? I mean, there's added things that people add, like you said, that we're unaware of because it was free the first 30 or 60 days, then we don't pay attention to it. So what would be your advice right now? Just get out a piece of paper and start figuring it out, or what would you say, Christina?
Yeah, I just say get out of, what I say is where to start is in the form of questions. Is just ask yourself, is how much does it cost to live my life? Let's say within $1,000.
Okay.
And it's a great starting place. And then try to start thinking, now, how would I figure that out? How would I get the answer to that question? within $1,000. And then the follow-up is, if I don't know how to do that, or I can't do it easily, and I have financial problems, could there be a link between the two?
Duh. Well, the other thing I'd like to say is, so it's not scary. So this is what it's costing you to actually live: food, shelter, clothing, and those kind of amenities. And then over here is how you want to live. And don't tell me you want to live at, Windsor Castle. But I mean, if you want to live without fear, if you want to, like you said, not have to work maybe for 2 weeks, let's even go for a week, depending on your life, what your life is like, what would it take? And here's the thing, and Christina, you've been so good at this. You have the power to do this. This is not reserved for those people or those people, the people that went to college or the people that didn't go to college or the people who had trust funds. This is about you. And you can do this right now if you'll just take control. Again, if you're having trouble with this, Christina offers a free 45-minute consultation to find out whether or not you'd be a fit for her program. Tell us a little bit about that consultation, because I know just to have you as a coach is more than a car payment, just warning you.
Well, I just like to say, think of it as a coaching call. Like if you get an opportunity, let's say you love tennis and you play tennis all the time, and tennis is such a huge part of your happiness, and you're a little stagnant with tennis, like you haven't gotten better, you're doing okay. And let's say the best tennis coach in the world says, hey, I'd like to offer you a 45-minute tennis lesson, complimentary.
Yes.
Right. Like, it's like, hell yeah. Like, and it's like, what's the catch, but it's, why wouldn't I? And if we wouldn't sign up for it, even though what seems obvious, like, hell yeah, I'd sign up for that. I'd venture to say probably half the people wouldn't. And why wouldn't they? Because of the internal story they tell themselves, like, oh, I'm not good enough to meet with the world's best, and the thing, I'll be embarrassed or I'll waste their time, or maybe I should go get some practice first because I don't want to look like an idiot. So all of those self stories we tell ourselves keeps us from maybe going to get this amazing opportunity to work with the best tennis coach in the world, that just for the experiential sake enough would make it worth it. But it's our own stories in their head that get in our way of making usually the most important decisions. So that's the same with me. It's like, just let's just do a coaching session. I'll listen, I'll coach, I'll give some advice. If I think I can help you beyond that, I'll let you know. If I don't, I promise I'm going to give you some new techniques for your tennis swing, and that's it.
So let me move on a little bit from that. And that is, okay, if you're saying right now to yourself, I am too embarrassed to let the great Christina Wise know what a disaster I am, or I don't want anybody to know how much I really spend on gummy bears, it's embarrassing. Here's the thing. It's a safe place here at Women's Wisdom Network, or we wouldn't be partnering with somebody like Christina Wise. She almost died from working too hard. Okay, we all talk about working too hard, being dead tired, but she basically almost was. So it shouldn't take that kind of an event for you to take control of what you're doing and to give yourself that peace of mind that when you go to sleep at night, you can actually sleep. Because if you've got children or you've got family, or you're the sole provider for your household, makes good sense to tap into somebody who's an absolute expert at it, who has walked the talk. This is not, I'd like to say about the program, since I've been through it, that it's just down to earth. It's just easy stuff. It's not hard. It takes some discipline, obviously, because you have to literally face your menace and figure out, okay, that's it. No more Jimmy Choos for at least a month, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to just have the confidence in yourself. Nothing's more attractive than confidence, not arrogance, not superiority, but the confidence to know you're the best you can be right now. And finances are just like the weather. It changes, right? I mean, things happen. Your kid needs braces, the car needs a tune-up, whatever it is. But what if you were so well equipped to know that you can do this? How would that feel? And so, Christina, though, tell us a little bit about the Money Wise method.
The Money Wise, Wise Money. Yeah, it's like going to money school. I call it the money night school, where we're just learning money. And it's a place where you finally get intimate with your money, learn where it's all going. I teach a very specific framework, But ultimately, I just call it know your numbers. I mean, we've heard in business, you have to know your numbers. If you want to really build a business, it's pretty difficult to build a business if you don't know the most crucial numbers that you need to know about your business. And personal finance is the same. We have to know our numbers. And so it's just 12 weeks to get in there, learn money, understand the language of it, break old mindsets and patterns, reconstruct those to be healthy mindsets and healthy new habits and patterns, and really to reestablish a relationship with money where it's not neglectful and quite the opposite. And then just learning how to manage money in a way that generates lots of growth and fulfillment and meaning. And yeah, it's just you just leave with a whole different approach to money from the inside out. So that's what we do. But again, just let's do a consult. If that's something that sounds like a good idea for you, we'll talk about it. And if not, you said it well too, is that we get in our own way of maybe setting up a coaching call because we're like, I don't want to feel embarrassed. I'm just saying, no matter where wherever you are, I promise you I've been there. So there's no judgment or anything here. I've been there. It's like, oh, I can relate to that one. Let me tell you about mine too. But also the messier, the better. The messier, we have more to work with, we have more growth, we have more transformation. So give me the messiest you've got. Try to stump me, and just make a game out of it. Let's stump Christina.
Yeah, you know what? I've got to tell you, it's a lovely place to be, by the way. And 45 minutes with Christina is awesome. If you want more information about this, and again, this is a resource that Women's Wisdom Network offers because it's our goal to help women help women. And nothing's better than self-care, and that just isn't relegated to a good facial. It's all about all facets of your life. So go to Women's Wisdom Network /Money Monday, get some details so that we can sign you up and get at least the right information so that you're at least aware of it. That's the one thing that we try to provide is resources to make you aware to make the most informed decisions. And by the way, Christine and I do this every single Monday at 2:00. We're not doing it on a holiday though, because even she gets a day off, I hope. And I hope you do too. But every Monday at 2:00 Central, join us for Money Mondays with Christina Wise, the author of Falling for Money. And Christina, give them one closing tip before we leave today.
I just say when we're going into Thanksgiving and being grateful. So I say the tip is just really tap into the feeling, the emotions of being grateful. And money especially is so easy to focus on what we don't have and the money that's not there, as opposed to being really grateful for what is. So wherever we are, just be grateful. We've got a roof over our head. We've got, so much just love and friendship and family in our lives. And let's that be the focus as we, as we're working towards growth and transformation, we can still be really grateful for where we are today. And that is why we love her. Yes, abundance is where we are, both in support, love, care, insights, resources, and tools at Women's Wisdom Network. I want to thank you, Christina, for joining us again. Sharing this has just been extraordinarily outstanding for me and all the people that get to listen to us. You'll see us on the Women's Wisdom Network Facebook community page as well. And we're featuring Christina on LinkedIn and Realty Times, where she's a contributing author every single time, realtytimes.com. It's free. There is no sale there. Just go ahead and join us. I'm Terry Murphy. See you next Monday.